So I'm so glad to have Chris Hsu from Azibo with us. Chris, before we really get into it, could you give me a little bit of background on who you are?
Yeah, that's a very open-ended question. I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
Okay.
and joined the military. I went to the military academy and served as a tank officer in the U.S. Army. And then after that, I decided I wanted to be in product management, so I went to General Mills, and I managed Suddenly Salad, Betty Crocker, and Yoplait Yogurt. And then decided,
Know all that stuff.
Yeah, it's good eating.
Yeah, good eating.
Good eating.
American eating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then I decided to go to business school and get an MBA and went to Kellogg, and then joined McKinsey and Company, and planned on just spending 2 years there. Ended up spending almost 6. I was recruited out of McKinsey to KKR, the private equity firm where I was an operating partner, and operated in several different regions around the world, and was then recruited out of there after 7 years to join Hewlett Packard. And I joined Meg Whitman at HP and really helped her, transform that company. Ended up running one of the divisions, a software division, spun that out and merged it with a UK-based company. And then after about 2 years, decided to go do something else. And I wanted to get from the large-scale global businesses into something more entrepreneurial. I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I started in Andreessen Horowitz and spent 6 months there helping some of their portfolio companies. And then met my co-founders and thought, man, this is just such a cool space to build the one-stop shop financial services platform for independent landlords that I couldn't pass it up. And so I jumped in and we co-founded the company and started to build it.
So tell us a little bit about Azibo, what it does, the problem that it solves, and then we'll kind of dig into it from there.
Sure. So Azibo, as I mentioned, is the one-stop shop financial services platform for the independent landlord and their ecosystem. So tenants, vendors, and small independent property managers. And the problem that Azibo solves is providing access to the best financial services to that network, which is typically a very underserved network, and using modern tools, technology, and data to make the entire process for owning, managing, growing, and selling property easier.
So essentially it just removes friction in the space for everyone involved.
It removes friction, it removes cost, and it creates transparency. So one of the biggest pain points that landlords have is, especially if they have multiple properties, is just knowing, being able to match incoming revenue from tenants to outgoing bills. And especially if there's lumpy, something broke.
Right.
And so our platform creates transparency both on when you're going to get the money. Like it literally tells you like that tenant paid on this date and the cash will be in your account on that date. And then facilitates the payment of bills and transparency of bills in a way that you can truly see cash flow, manage it, predict it, and frankly, get a bridge loan every once in a while when you need capital to help bridge from one point to the other.
So on top of being a cash flow management software tool, you guys also provide credit on an as-needed basis to your landlords if they need to replace their HVAC system or anything of that nature.
Exactly. And in fact, and we, unlike many of the banks and other forms of credit, we use the data that they've already provided on platform when they onboarded with us, when they opened a bank account, when they're doing all of their monthly transactions. We use that data to actually pre-underwrite them so that they then essentially just use, they just have to sign terms of service, and then we push money into their Azibo bank account. And then on a monthly basis, we pull money out of the Azibo bank account to pay the loan back. But a lot of landlords will need short-term cash to do things like, I had a turnover of a unit and I need to fix that unit so that I can get more revenue out of that unit for the next, but they don't have cash sitting around. So we give them that short-term loan. Or to your point, the HVAC breaks and they just don't have that cash sitting around. But our goal is to provide that one-stop shop financial services platform, with that anchor point really being what we call the landlord management platform, which includes banking, payments, and data analytics and management.
Got it. So if I'm understanding correctly, a lot of these services before Azibo, you had to go to multiple sources. So for instance, if you wanted, it was a very unbundled experience, right?
It's a great word. It was, it's manual, it's unbundled, it's analog, and frankly, a lot of the legacy players have just never invested in modern tools and technology. And so we were born cloud native. So everything that we've done has been mobile first, cloud native. And so we built tools that customers have become accustomed to modern UI and modern tools and technology, but in their financial services, they haven't been able to access that.
Right. So apart from
especially in the commercial space. Sorry.
Right. So in addition to the bundled aspect, the whole one-stop shop aspect, the other thing that I'm picking up on your business that I would love to have you talk a little bit more about is the data analytics component. So the first thing that came to mind when you were talking me through it was that if you guys are offering a loan, well, that's going to be a much more riskless loan relative to a traditional lender because you have so much information on this person's business.
That's right.
Talk me through some of the applications of the data that you're collecting.
Well, yeah. So the challenging thing in financial services and the number one limitation to innovation in financial services, besides a regulatory construct, which requires, banks don't sell insurance, as an example, is the fragmentation of the data.
Right.
And what we've essentially done is built, like I mentioned, a cloud native software stack with data at the core. And what we allow the landlord to do is every aspect of the relationship we have with them, we create a data profile. And so, for instance, when they give us their ID card, we have ID verification. And they have to have that in order to get on our platform.
Right.
When they give us their email address and phone numbers, we do background checks to make sure that those are associated with that same person and there's no fraud. When we open a bank account, we do a credit check and we do anti-money laundering checks and those types of checks. And then we allow landlords to bring all their data to our platform and transact with that data from their bank accounts, from other forms of payment, etc. And that creates a more holistic profile of that customer and the credit worthiness of that customer and the needs.
Right.
And that enables us to then provide them with credit at the right time, at the right place, for the right price.
It's an incredibly tailored experience for your customer.
That's right, because we know who they are. And it's a great example. If you go into your local bank and you apply for a loan, that bank, even though they have all your banking information, they're not going to automatically suck the information from your bank to put into your loan application.
Right.
You're going to end up filling that loan application
a million
out,
times.
and then you've got to go find an insurance broker if you don't have one to get an insurance policy. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to go fill out an insurance application with the same data, the exact same data that exists in your bank account.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we leverage that data across all. I always say we leverage the landlord's data cross-product, cross-time, so that over the lifetime of their relationship with Azibo, they never have to provide us with the same set of data twice.
Got it. So now that I have a pretty decent understanding of Azibo, the product, the problem that it's solving and how it's solving it, I want to actually, zoom up 100,000 feet and talk a little bit more about the space. So I know that COVID has done an incredible job at driving adoption. Even something as simple as wet signature to digital signature, right? Unbelievable conversion because, well, you had to. So other than that, have you seen any interesting tailwinds that are really helping propel the business forward?
Yeah, so, for one, somebody just asked me, what was the difference between pre-COVID and post-COVID? We don't know because we launched during COVID. So Azibo was launched in August of last year is when we did our first public launch. And it was right in the smack dab in the middle of COVID. So we don't actually know what the world looks like, outside of COVID.
What about the space in general, though?
Yeah, I would say that if you were, especially in FinTech, if you were used to walking into a bank and talking with your teller and doing your transactions, like depositing a whole book of checks that you collected from your tenants, you weren't even able to do that because the banks were closed. And nowadays, actually, it's funny, my daughter tried to open a bank account recently, and it was a 2-week appointment to open a passbook savings account because there's no labor. So we've got all these discontinuities in the system today that really make digital platforms like ours, where you can go online, provide your information digitally, and within 24 hours you have a fully operational commercial business account where you operate under your LLC. Like, you can't do that anywhere.
Right. So let's switch gears and talk about headwinds. So in the space, whenever you're talking about legacy businesses or industries that have a really strong legacy network, you tend to run into people who are really tied to doing things the way they've always done it. So that conversion seems to be pretty difficult in spaces like construction, for example. Is that something that's true with? Yeah,
it's funny. Yeah, a lot of people have asked me, well, if they're banking with XYZ Bank, and I'm not going to say any bank names, but they're banking with XYZ Bank and they're happy with their banking service, why would they bank with you? And why would they fire their bank, so to speak? And one of the things that's been our philosophy from day one is we never want to force a landlord customer to have to fire a solution to become a Azibo customer. So what we have is an open door policy. So of all of our products, you can come in and you can use any one of our products without adopting the whole platform. And banking's a great example. You can bring all your banks, not just one, you can bring all your banks. Independent landlords, let's say you have 10 properties, you might have 20 bank accounts because they use the bank account as their core operating system and as their accounting system.
Right.
So you might have one account per property for your operating account and a separate account per property for your security deposit accounts. We're going to allow you to bring all those to Azibo so you can manage all those in one integrated platform and you don't have to fire your bank. Now, since we launched a year ago, 40% of our customers have designated a new Azibo account as their primary rent collection bank account, because we have all kinds of tailored tools to enable a landlord to do things that they can't do on top of XYZ Bank.
That's a really interesting and innovative way to work around switching costs. So essentially you've eliminated any type of switching costs by making your platform completely interoperable and then incentivizing the customer to switch to you over the long term at a pace they feel comfortable with.
That's right. And the incentive, as I always tell my team, the incentive is you got to be better.
Exactly.
You got to be more unique and better. There's no money. We're not incenting you with money. It's literally like
product.
If you put this product versus that product side by side, you're going to choose this product.
Right.
Why? Because it does something different, unique, better, faster, cheaper.
Right.
Like, that's it. And if you come in through the insurance door because you need an insurance policy because you're closing on a house, well, that gives us an opportunity to cross-sell into mortgage.
Right.
And over time, if you've got an insurance policy and you're coming back to the Azibo platform to manage your insurance policy or to renew it, then we have opportunities to bring you into our banking and payments solution. So this idea of a integrated one-stop shop platform allows us at inflection points to cross-sell Azibo products and services when customers are ready.
So I know you met your co-founders when you were working in venture. Help me understand how you guys isolated this particular problem to work on with Azibo.
Well, for one, I've been an independent landlord for 23 years, and I have lived every single pain point that all those independent landlords out there today are living through. And so I deeply understood the need, and I was confident that there needed to be a solution that did what Azibo is doing today. And then I spent many years in building software and also in financial services. And I think the combination of doing something that I love, my hobby as an independent landlord, with building software in financial services was just such an exciting area. And FinTech was just booming and emerging. So I just thought that would be a great spot to invest, the next several years of my life.
Okay, so now that we've gotten a good understanding of what Azibo does and the pain points that it solves, let's actually go up to the 100,000 foot level and take a look at the space in general. So tell me a bit about how it looks today and how Azibo is entering into it.
Yeah, it's a great question. So for one, if you look at all the financial services that an independent landlord needs, you can get those in many, many different places. And so it's not like we're creating a new category or really really kind of creating a completely innovative single-threaded product. In fact, if you're talking banking, there are 5,300 banks all across the U.S. If you're talking insurance, there are thousands of insurance brokers, thousands of mortgage brokers. It is such a highly fragmented space. And what's unique about what we're doing, number one, is we're bringing together all the financial services into one marketplace. We're not focusing on a single threaded vertical. We're not being a product specialist just in one area. We're focusing on a customer segment, that independent landlord who owns 1 to 250 units, and we're providing them with a marketplace of services horizontally, so we can solve all their financial services needs in one platform. And the key to that, what's really differentiated, number one, is the speed and pace that we innovate and bring products to markets. None of the incumbents can touch. None of them. In fact, I've talked to many of them and I tell them exactly what we're doing, and they're blown away by what we've done in just a year and a half. And then the second piece is that data. When we get the landlord, I grew up in Louisiana, I call it BYOD. It's kind of like BYOB, that's what we did in Louisiana. But BYOD, they bring their data to the platform, and we leverage that data on their behalf to get products cross-product, cross-time.
So I know you guys just launched in August of last year, right? But even with a fairly new launch, I'm sure you've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. So what's on the horizon for Azibo?
Yeah, we launch new products every 2 weeks. And in fact, the speed and pace of the product changes are dramatic. In fact, our product this year is so fundamentally different than it was last year. It's so much better. I would say, one of the big things that I'm super excited about is we've had a lot of customers since we launched tell us, I want to be able to share Azibo with my CPA or with my partner or with my local property manager who onboards tenants and does all that stuff. And we just released that capability. So you can actually, as a landlord, share with your local property manager, or as a property manager, you can sign up on Azibo and share with multiple landlords and manage that all in one place. That is just a game changer. And that enables all those landlords and small property managers to have a one-stop shop financial services platform that they never had before.
That sounds amazing. Chris, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you.
Thank you.